Hi, I'm Ron with Aero Fresca, and we're here today to talk to you about air filtration, how it works, why it works, and what you should be buying and what you should be looking for. So in the air, it's particles, and we can't see them. They're invisible. They're too small to the naked eye. But let's understand how they work. So there's three types of particles. There's coarse particles, which are just below the naked eye level. There's fine particles that go down into the micron level, and there's ultrafine particles that go down to the nanometer level. When you look at the box, the advertising on air filtration systems, they'll generally say that they can clean down to 1 micron. Some will even say to 0.3 microns. Okay, that's the bottom of the fine particles. So a decent air filter will take out the coarse, will take out the fine particles, but they don't even touch the ultrafine particles. And what you really need to understand is that the coarse particles represent 1% of the overall particles in the air. The fine particles represent 9% of the particles in the air. And the ultrafine particles that you really need to be concerned about represent 90% of the particles that are in the air. Now, when we talk about these particles, the smaller ones are the most harmful ones. The smaller ones are the ones that can get right in through your mouth, in through your throat, into your lungs, into your bloodstream, even into your DNA. They're that tiny. It takes an electron microscope to even see these things. But if you're an asthma sufferer and you're trying to breathe at night when you're sleeping, these ultrafine particles are what get into your lungs and aggravate your lungs and make you feel the way you feel. Removing those particles allows you to breathe. So sometimes if you bought an air filter and you really don't see a difference or notice a difference, you don't feel any different, that's because it's not doing the job you thought it was doing. And that's what we're going to show you. We're going to do some testing. We're going to do some really hardcore testing. And we have 2 units that are going to help us with this. This is the Trotec PC 2020. This will show us how many particles are in the air by their size. It'll go from 10 microns all the way down to 0.3 microns. It'll show us the number of particles that are in the air at those levels. And we'll do this on a test with 2 different machines. We have a Honeywell machine and an IQ Air machine, and we're going to do the tests on those. So this will go down to 0.3 microns. Then we've got the TSI 3007, and this goes all the way down to 0.3 nanometers. Now, if you know anything about the metric system, a nanometer is 1,000 times smaller than a micron. And so by capturing these tiny, tiny, minuscule particles at the nanometer level, you'll feel the difference in your lungs. You'll feel that you don't have the aggravation when you sleep at night. It's a freeing experience. So anyhow, we're going to go test some units, and then we'll come back later and kind of go over it. Thanks. So the reason for this video today is to introduce you to a new technology in cleaning the air. It's called Circulair, and it works in an entirely different method of anything you've ever seen. And the result is absolutely 100% clean air. So let's do a couple tests, and we have the other units to test after this. So here's our Trotec unit, and we're going to run an ambient air test. It takes 5 seconds to start the test, and then it takes 20 seconds to run. And this is an ambient air test, so you'll see the numbers come on here. Okay, you can see the particle count at the bottom is 10 microns, showing 9 or 10 particles. Then 5 microns, 2.5, 1, 1/2, and 0.3. And there's 11,448 particles at 0.3. Okay, now let's do a test and start the meter and put it through circular. And you'll notice that everything shows zeros. When I pull it off to the side, the numbers go up. When I put it back, the numbers immediately stop. The numbers start climbing. I put it back, the numbers stop. And let's just do a full test for the 20 seconds. We'll let it run for the full 20 seconds. And as you can see, nothing came through. Absolutely nothing came through larger than 0.3 microns. All right, now let's get the other unit out and see what it does on smaller particles. Okay, now let's use the TSI 3007. This one, you don't start the test, it just runs constantly and shows a number. So right now you can see the hose is off to the side, and we're doing an ambient air test. And when we bring it over to the output for circular, and put it in the stream, the numbers dive immediately and go to absolute zero. Okay, if I pick it up a little bit, immediately the numbers climb. Put it back. Once the tube is cleaned out of all the dirty air, it just sits at zero, absolute zero. Nothing else will do this. We've tested hundreds of units. Nothing else comes close. And now we're going to show you the test on the 2 units we have here. Now this is a large unit. This is a whole house unit. If you purchase this unit, it will come with a stainless steel enclosure. We just use this wood box to move it around for trade shows. It's about 4.5 feet tall, 2 foot by 2 foot. And this will do about 800 square meters per hour. So quite a great amount of output from this unit. But you can get in a much smaller unit, about 2 foot tall by 1.5 foot by 1.5 foot. And it also comes in much larger units to do millions of square feet. The technology can be varied in size for any conditions. Still sitting at zero. Alright, let's go on and test the other units. So let's test the Honeywell unit first. There's 3 HEPA filters inside of the unit. The air goes into the front and comes out on the top. Okay, so now let's turn this on. Okay, to give you a point of reference, ambient air, I shut the unit off, so they're sitting on top of the filter, but the unit is off. And if you can see, this readout says 6,900. Yeah, 67. That's a constant readout. It just fluctuates. The other smaller unit, we're going to run the test on. So let me push the button to start the test. It takes 5 seconds to start the test, and the test runs for 20 seconds. So now these are different size particles. The unit that we're looking at right now is going from 10
microns, 5 microns, 2.5 microns, 1 micron, a half micron, and 0.3 microns. That's the smallest. And see how the numbers get larger? That's what I'm saying. This is 10% of the overall particle population. This unit now will measure down to 10 nanometers. It can't even get smaller. We're dealing with microscopic molecular sized particles at that level. So this is how many particles are smaller than this one's capturing. Okay, so now let's start this up. And see what happens to the numbers. Now the unit doesn't claim that it's going to capture particles this small. It doesn't claim it. So they're getting through, but they don't tell you that they exist. You know, when you look at the box, it says 99.9%. Well, that's of coarse and fine particles. They don't make mention of ultrafine particles. And this unit you can't twist. Let's start it from 0. Okay, so as you can see, this is what's getting through the filter that says 99%. Okay, we have the unit at the top, we got all zeros, and if all goes right, this should remain zeros. You can hear a little thing winding up there. It takes 5 seconds to start the test, and the test lasts 20 seconds. Okay, here we go. And already you're starting to see the numbers fill in. See the top, the smallest particles are on the top. It's kind of upside down. If you look at it, it's 10 nanometers at the bottom and 0.3 nanometers at the top. So the smaller particles are the ones getting through. And in the 20-second test, when we end up 175 particles at 0.3, 71 at 0.5, at 15 at 1, and 2 at 2.5. Clearly this unit is not doing well. And this is the IQ Air filter. About $900. Way on the high side. Really nice design. But does it work? So we went right to the nano filter on this one, and we'd be looking for zeros, but we're dealing with 77, 50, 75. The point of this exercise is to say, guys, what are you buying? You know, they say 99.9% on the box, but when you put the equipment to it, what are you getting? You know, it's like getting a tank of gas without a meter. Do they fill it? I don't know. This is the proof. Now let's try the smaller Trotec PC220 on it and see what we come up with. So I'm going to hold this up against the outlet. I have to push the little button to start it. It takes 5 seconds to warm up and start. And then the test lasts for 20 seconds. And see, this one does show all zeros, as it should. This one is a high quality unit, no doubt about it. It doesn't get below the 0.3 microns, but it does get, as they claim, a little came through. Not bad. Okay, so now let's do a little bit of a stress test. Here's where things start to fall apart. I have a lit cigarette in an ashtray. I'm sliding it underneath the unit because the unit pulls from the bottom. That's where its first filter is. And we're going to go back, turn this on. It takes 5 seconds for the numbers to start to come on. And the test runs for 20 seconds. Now this should remain all zeros, but it's not. This is just a little smoke from one cigarette. It's not doing too good. Okay, 1500 on the high side. Okay, now we put a cigarette and an ashtray under it, and let's see where the numbers go. Right inside of it. See, this is stress. So when the air is pretty clean, it does a great job of cleaning it further. But when the air is really dirty, that's where the problem started. Well, before we do testing on the other units, let's do a stress test on this unit. This is pretty remarkable. That's about as dirty of an engine as you can get. There's no muffler, there's no catalytic converter. The exhaust is going right into the intake of circular air. Let's do a little ambient air test here. 5 seconds to make it start. And you'll see the numbers here go pretty high. It's getting up in the danger level. It's getting to the yellow. That's a lot of input. Okay. Now we'll put it on circular air. Turn it upside down again. And we come out with zeros. Absolute zero. We'll let it run for the full 20 seconds. Nothing at all, folks. That is as good as it's going to get. Absolute zero. Now we'll bring in the other particle counter. As you can see, this thing's off the chart. It's picking up some nasty air. Okay. And we'll bring it over the circular unit. Watch the numbers drop. Again, it's got to clean out the tube before it can really get down to show zero. Pick it up a little bit, the numbers immediately jump. Put it back. Zero. Pretty impressive. Okay, I don't know how to make the air any dirtier than this. Alright, we got it hooked up. And we're going to bring it over here. First off, we're still connected here. We're still got a zero. Alright, let's move that out of the way. Get a shot of ambient air. But I'm close by with this thing, and let's take a sniff of that. Boom, off the chart. Okay, so that's what we're starting with. So let's put this back where it was. Let's get this number to come back down where it belongs. And we come up here and we get 0. Just take this down here for you. And this, now we get back up to our monster numbers. So this is why we say that we can make diesels run emission-free. Because here's your emissions right here. One last test on the black unit. So we've got the exhaust going right in the front, where the intake is. Got our meter on top, hose going right down into the exhaust. Then we get a reading around 11, 12,000, 10,000. Okay, now if we bring this down right into the exhaust level, we'll see 600, 200,000, 150,000. And knocks it down to 10,000. Okay, so the point is, look at the number of particles, and remember, these are the ultrafine particles that are blowing right through the filter and into your home, and these are the most harmful particles. So do you want to get rid of coarse, fine, and ultrafine, or is it good enough getting rid of 10% of the particles? This is what they never explain.